The Boston Celtics are officially NBA champions, and that is a reality that unfortunately we have to face. Now, in their celebration, in the parade, who was still on their mind? But Joel Embiid himself. That there is the sign popping up that Deuce has more rings than Embiid. And it is funny to me how much real estate there is on the Joel Embiid standpoint. But in all seriousness, I do want to reflect a little bit on the Celtics' path to this point, compare it to the Sixers, see the differences where things went wrong, and reveal the one player that I still cannot stand on the Celtics. That may not be the guy that jumps to the front of your mind there. So let's start off by taking a look at the results here. That taking a bit of a reflection point for this particular Celtics core, which essentially was established around the same point as the Sixers process beginning. That Joel Embiid being the face of the Sixers team pretty much in the same time frame where Jason Tatum has established himself as the face of the Celtics. In fact, Joel drafted a little bit earlier. Obviously injuries, he missed 2 years, all that type of thing, but you get the point there. Now let's take a look at the Sixers postseason success since this point. We're starting at 2016 and 17. Lost in the second round to the Boston Celtics in 2017-18. Lost in the second round to the Raptors 2018-19. We all remember the Kawhi bounce. Were swept by the Celtics in the 2019 and 20 season. Then they lost to the second round against the Hawks. We all remember that. Ben Simmons passing up the dunk. Lost to the Heat in 21-22. Lost to the Celtics in 22-23. And then, of course, lost to the Knicks that year. So a team that has made the playoffs in each of those seasons has yet to get past the second round. Now let's take a look at the Celtics during that same time frame. A lot more on the board here. That going back to that 2016-17 year in which the Sixers missed the playoffs, the Celtics made it all the way to the conference finals in which they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers, still the LeBron James Cavaliers at that point in time. 2017-18, same exact story there. Then they were bounced by the Bucks in the 2018-19 season in the second round, made it all the way to the conference finals once again where they lost to the Heat in 2019-20. Then they lost to the Brooklyn Nets in the 2021 season, that being the KD, Kyrie, and James Harden Nets there. Then back at it in 21-22, where they made it all the way to the NBA Finals, only to lose at the hands of the Golden State Warriors. Flashback to last season, in which they lost in the conference finals to the Miami Heat in Game 7, a huge surprise there. Then this season, where they finally get over the championship hump. There just straight up is a lot more playoff basketball in that resume for that Celtics team than anything the Sixers have to put forth. Now, when digging back to how this all came about, it is hard not to have some real reflection from the Sixers standpoint for how you allowed this to be the case. And taking a look at exactly why that is the key draft picks right here in the 2016 and 2017 drafts. Taking Ben Simmons, the number 1 overall pick, where Brandon Ingram went 2 and Jaylen Brown went 3. And then following up by taking Markelle Fultz first, where Lonzo Ball went 2nd and Jason Tatum went 3rd. And to make the Markelle Fultz situation even worse, that not only did the Sixers take Fultz over Jason Tatum, but they traded an additional first-round pick to move up from the 3rd spot to the 1st spot to take Fultz there. Now, I think there's a little bit too much criticism on these overall. It is 2020 hindsight, and when looking back on it, it is clear that those were the wrong decisions. But you flash back to put yourself in those shoes, and Ben Simmons was billed as the number 1 pick in that draft for many years leading up to it. That there was no doubt, and it would have been an absolute shock if they went with Brandon Ingram or Jaylen Brown with the 1st overall pick, even knowing what we do know now. And to be perfectly honest, at this point, whether it is in his mind or in his body, it has nothing to do with Ben Simmons' basketball ability, why he didn't turn out to be a all-star player or Hall of Fame player that he could have certainly been. It's very frustrating, and honestly, it makes it even worse that that is the case. But by the basketball situation, I still think the Sixers made the right call. And frankly, I think even as things have deteriorated with our feelings with Ben Simmons, it gets forgotten how good he was for a point in time. That man was a real deal all-star, and even if it had an ounce of passion for basketball, he could have been a perennial all-star and borderline Hall of Famer, and very frustrating that that is not the case. Now, a bit of a different story with Markelle Fultz, who had played like the number 1 pick for the entirety of that season. He was cold-blooded at Washington, and then all of a sudden his shoulder stopped working. Now, whether you feel that the Sixers should have had the stones to look elsewhere when the workout did not look the same and you could tell there was something was up, there was a lot more film based on college. And again, he was terrific during those college days. That he was billed as the projected number 1 pick. This was not a surprising take. And the other asterisk that I will throw next to it is the Celtics, while they certainly played the Sixers in this situation, they knew exactly what they were doing. That there was no world in which the Sixers were walking away with Jason Tatum. If they thought that to be the case, the Celtics would have taken Tatum at 1st overall in that specific draft. So while these age horribly in this specific context is not as bad. It wasn't as bad as the time is currently the case. And by the way, quick side note, check out those number 4 picks by the Phoenix Suns, walking away with Dragon Bender and Josh Jackson, who are both out of the league. So at least it wasn't that bad, but still not a high bar to hold up. Now, when thinking about this Celtics team as a whole, I do want to compliment them on something. For starters, I have a great deal of respect for the Celtics team, that I know we're supposed to full out hate them, but they really do. They did things the right way, and I respect the way this team plays. Guy like Jaylen Brown, how competitive he is, how hard he works. Guy like Drew Holiday, who started his career in Philadelphia, impossible to hate. Derek White plays basketball the right way, a great deal of respect for the grittiness, how he does things on both ends. Even Jason Tatum, who's the forefront of everything, I don't have any real issues with. He stylistically is not my archetype of player, a guy that I'm drawn to the way that he plays, but I certainly think he goes about his business the right way, treats things as the consummate professional, and I do have some admiration for that. Now, the one guy that I cannot stand is Al Horford, and that goes right back to the Philly days here. And to dive into what Big Al did this year, 8.6 points, 6.4 rebounds, 2.6 assists per game, shot 51.1% from the field, 41.9% from three, which is pretty insane there. At this point in his career, 61.6% of all of his shots are three. To put that in perspective, Tobias Harris shooting about 25% of his share is coming from beyond the arc, a much healthier shot diet for Al Horford for what the team needs. And to dive into his stats of a whole, I just want to point out how he's been good in every single spot except Philadelphia. When you look at those stats during his lone season that he spent with the Sixers, 11.9 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 4.0 assists, shot 35% from beyond the three-point arc on 4.2 three-point attempts that season. And you can see that statistically his numbers have declined, but that does not show the impact that he continues to make. He's become a glue part of that team, and frankly, I'm fully convinced he was working as a double agent during his time in Philadelphia. There is no way that this man has been a successful basketball player in every single location except Philadelphia. And I do not want the revisionist history to talk about how the Sixers misused him. No, it wasn't perfect from a basketball fit, but the dude straight up did not try. And shout out to Mike O'Connor for tweeting out 4 full minutes of just bad defensive highlights for Al Horford, where he just really gave no effort. And what I honestly think happened, for starters, I think it's so lame how the Horford family and his sister in particular act like he's being held hostage in Philadelphia during the time frame when he signed as a free agent, where he had the choice to go wherever he wanted. But what I think happened in Al Horford's mind, he took the money, he came to Philadelphia, took the highest offer, and realized a couple months in that this was not working, and he mailed it in. And the Sixers were at the worst because of it. That being the biggest big-ticket free agent that they'd brought in decades to that point, a guy that was supposed to push them closer to getting over the championship hump, and it did not work. And the Celtics also should be thanking the Sixers that one of the driving forces and reason why Al Horford is being successful in these later years is because of that. Number one, because the Sixers pushed him to take more three-pointers. And number two, when they had to get off that contract, which was one of Daryl Morey's first moves in charge of the Sixers, sent him out to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were very much in their tanking era. And in that season in particular, Al Horford was shut down after playing just 28 games, basically got told to go chill at a spa, rest up till next season, we'll send you to a winner, and he found himself back at Boston. And he's got a little extra life in his legs because he basically got that year off. Now, with Al Horford, I do hate you. I will always hate you. I think that should be the case, and your sister, by the way. But from the Celtics as a whole, there shouldn't be this, I guess, animosity in a way that I think is typically the case with guys that are conference rivals. The Sixers got to wear it that the Celtics have just straight up been better on every definition from an organizational standpoint to this point. But the lesson that I think the Sixers can take from the Celtics team is they found an identity and they stuck with it. That there have been questions for years now with Jason Tatum, with Jaylen Brown. Is their games too similar? Do they have to break these two up? And the Celtics just continued to believe in these guys being the types of talents that they clearly are and retooling around him. For the Sixers, we've seen so many different identities of this team, and none of them have worked to this point. And that is my request. That is the lesson that I want the Sixers to take away from not just the Celtics, but this NBA offseason as a whole. That look around the league. The Dallas Mavericks didn't even make the NBA playoffs last year, but they believe that the Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic pairing can figure it out. They gave Kyrie that contract, they retooled around him, and they made it to the NBA Finals this year. The Minnesota Timberwolves looked god-awful when the Rudy Gobert trade first happened, but they committed to that's the direction we're going, and they had some success in the playoffs this year. These teams figured out their identity, stuck with it, even when it wasn't always looking great. The Sixers have not a lot of time to figure out what that identity is, but it has to happen this offseason. You have to figure out a plan, you have to figure out identity and commit to it, and that's when the results will show. The The Celtics got that from the very beginning, and the Sixers straight up have not. So that is the lesson the Sixers need to take from the Celtics team, and it has to happen right this very offseason. So let me know what you guys think of that. Do you kind of feel the same way about the Celtics team, or am I out of bounds for not being as hateful towards them as probably should be the case? It does feel a little weird, but like I said, I just feel like the Celtics team did things the right way, and I do have a lot of respect for that, as well as the players that they do have, except for Al Horford, of course. So I'm all in on the hatred there. But appreciate you guys for tuning into this video. Make sure you are smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Dropping a like on this video if you have not, and I'll be talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.